Welcome to my first ever reaction video. I've never done one of these. This is a new thing. Even being actually like recording on my PC is something new that I haven't done in a long time. I'm not sure what I'm going to call this yet. I'm thinking about doing more reaction videos like this to a lot of like historical YouTubers and things like that. In the same kind of vein as like vlogging through history or Mr. Terry. But I run into a problem in that reality that I can't really do what I do as a professional as my piece because Mr. Terry's already the history teacher reacts guy. So what this is going to be called, I still am not sure. I'm also thinking about doing some gameplay stuff in the near future and maybe some online lectures. Go right along with the courses that I teach as a high school history teacher. Either way, though, I hope you enjoy. Today we're going to take a look at Leaders of History Rap Cypher by Rustage. I know that I look like I should not be the biggest fan here. I love rap. I've always been really deep into it, and I've always really enjoyed it since high school. But today, we're going to take a look at an artist that I'm already really familiar with, that I already really like, and actually seeing the history of, or the Leaders of History rap cypher pop up, made me want to do this reaction in the first place. And that's Rustage, who's kind of a staple in the nerdcore scene. But I see a lot of other names that I do recognize from that scene, and some that I don't. Let's see how this goes. I do expect that I'm going to pause a lot. I'm going to try to pick the right spots to do it. But again, this is the first time that I've done this, so let's get rolling. Okay, we're already going back, because I am curious, and I haven't looked here. So we've got Julius Caesar, Ramses II, Cyrus the Great, Alexander the Great. I am not sure how to pronounce Seondeok, Wu Zetian, Tokugawa, Genghis Khan, Alfred the Great, Harald Bluetooth, Charlemagne, Chandragupta, Mansa Musa, Shaka Zulu, Suleiman, Catherine the Great, Philip II, Moctezuma II, Napoleon, George Washington. So there's a long list here. There's a lot, and I am curious as to how in-depth. They see my legionnaires and my eagles bear them. So we're starting off with Julius Caesar himself, which makes sense. And it's not the earliest in the timeline. I have to look back. I'm not sure who would be off the top of my head, because I need to actually look at the list again. But Julius Caesar, major leader of the Roman Empire. He's the first kind of Roman emperor, although that title actually goes to Augustus, which would be his adoptive nephew and son, who would eventually become the first true emperor of Rome after he takes charge. But Julius Caesar really sets that on the path. He's kind of the doomsayer to the Roman Republic when he crosses us into the city, takes it back over. I'm sure that we're going to get some very pointed pieces with him. They see my legionnaires and my eagles bear to my flyer. Go ask my captors, say a price, I gon' tell them higher. So we're already kind of digging into some of the bigger pieces here. Legionaries, of course, being the primary military force for the Roman Empire, or the Roman Republic initially, then the Roman Empire. This is a real thing that happened. Julius Caesar was at one point captured by pirates, and when they put it down a bargain for him, or ransom for him, he looked at them and said, "Nah, you gotta jack that up. You gotta make that more expensive, because I am worth more."
My name in months and titles, no, I'm the man they admire. I got forged the flames of empires. Don't wanna fuck with a Caesar. Big leader, Res Republic, current console speaker. Colosseum, cause I'm deciding fates. They do it center stage, but they get stuck.
Okay, we're already kind of digging deeper into some other pieces. So as we come down through here, Res Publica would be the Roman Republic. He is also the consul for a little while, which is kind of the lead executive. There's actually co-consuls. There's 2 within the Roman Empire. He is one of the big ones at the time. We also get to this. I really like the way they did this, and I know that they put it as Julius Caesar in front of the Colosseum, but the Colosseum actually gets its name from the Colossus that was in front of it, the large statue that had existed in front, which was at the time of Nero, I believe. I could be getting that piece wrong, but some more pieces.
Cause I'm the sudden fates that do it center stage, but they ain't stuck in the bleachers. Hate your teachers, so go learn some etiquette. They play like Shakespeare, heavy verse and rhetoric. The puppet talking till he hurt his head. A bit a king to a slave, but they verse and rhetorics.
Taking a step back.
Shakespeare, heavy verse.
Of course, Shakespeare, one of his bigger plays is Julius Caesar, telling his life story and eventually the betrayal against him.
Rhetoric, the puppet talking till he hurt his head. A bit a king to a slave, but they verse and rhetorics. Never did it easy. I've been coming into battle like it's Venevitive. Bella on the commentary. I got records written neatly. Got the money like a cross is hidden London to the masses. They can call me a dictator cause the sinner getting needy. Even better when you see me leaving session like I see these other members of the continent are getting it like maybe hitting Cleo down and Egypt in my bella Nefertiti. I'm like guys back in BC.
And of course, Rustage is coming in with the fast flow that he's very good at. He's got that very good and solid machine gun flow that he does. As there is so much, and I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm probably going to go through, let most of the verse play out, and then just kind of discuss some of the bigger pieces. He discusses going to Egypt, where for a while Julius Caesar was the lover of the last pharaoh of Egypt, Cleopatra, before she turned to Mark Antony, and all the pieces within. But there is so much that he filled in, which makes sense for him. I also do find it kind of fun that we've gone from Julius Caesar, who for a while was the confidant and lover of the last pharaoh of Egypt, to Ramses II, one of the most prolific and powerful pharaohs to come out of Egypt.
When I was at war, I was outflanked, caught by the rank forces of a mad horde, and I still left every man more stamped on than the passport for my rap corpse. Now my back sore, and my body aches, cause I'm soon to hit 90, and you and my hundreds of wives are invited to bind, and I might have just landed to know how long I reign, hence the front line.
Okay, I'm immediately breaking what I said, but Ramses II, I'm already seeing some very fun pieces. Ramses II lived, I think, to 102. I could be completely misremembering that. He at least lived into his late 90s, which is wild for the time period. But he was a very, very long-serving pharaoh. He also was a very prolific father. He sired over 100 children, which created more than a few succession issues when he died. But that's beside the point for now.
They fought the betterment of Egypt. Every enemy that threatened me is said to be defeated. But with Ali, you can tally if you're dead. He is totally dead, but that's on a man. I swear that's happening, I said it. It's gone to amateurs, as long as grand. You put them on your pantheon. Aussie man, your only stands as the fucking raw. You'll never cook as hard as Gordon Ramsay's got your mouth when it.
Okay, that's kind of a goofy bar, but I do dig it. Never cook as hard as a Gordon Ramsay. Fun play on the name. But Ramses II also has a large role in kind of solidifying the Egyptian pantheon of gods. Because the issue is, Egypt has hundreds, arguably thousands of different iterations or different deities throughout its period. He kind of goes in directly with, this is my focus. It also is a play on the fact that the pharaoh was largely considered to be, and depends on the time period, either a physical embodiment of Horus, the one individual, the son of Ra, who kind of rules Egypt throughout the period, but that's why he's being called a god in this, which is
Ozzy Mandius only stands as the fucking raw. You'll never cook as hard as Gordon Ramsay's got.
Watch your mouth when the king of kings step in this bitch. I done conquered Lydia, Egypt and shit. I heard y'all was talking, y'all Babylon and on. Call your army, let's get this shit.
I love Mix Williams' flow as he comes in, but we already hit on the fact that Cyrus the Great is the king of kings. He is first off the king of Persia. He takes over Babylon. He goes up into Anatolia. If it's in the region, he's in charge of it. He expands all the way east toward the Hindu Kush. He is a massive player in the time period in which he lived.
Up to your border and cause a disturbance. They shaking, I'm making them nervous. Really the greatest, my servants they worship. I can't get no blood on this shirt, man, it's Persian. I can conquer your bitch.
Sometimes it's the simplest, stupid little bars that make you go, that's great. Can't get blood on the shirt because I'm Persian, because it's Persian, because he is the king of Persia. He is the head of the empire.
That's for certain. Top 5, I'm getting a vote. My drip so deep, my fits on fleet, my flow like water. I see my note, don't make me reach. I'm getting so close, they all rejoice just to look upon me. Get on your knees, it's CTG, 600 BC, still an OG. Like,
yeah, Cyrus the Great is one of the most prominent, one of the most powerful rulers to ever kind of take the stage. And he was widely seen as a positive one. Even his rivals spoke of him pretty positively throughout that period. The Greeks, who had a long-standing disdain for the Persian Empire, were pretty solidly, yeah, Cyrus, good leader, good controller. And now we're getting to the most prominent Greek ruler of all time. Technically, he's Macedonian, but he is the Hellenistic expander, the one who brought Greek culture from the Hindu Kush in India all the way into the Balkans and across North Africa, and kind of set the stage for Greek being the big player in Europe for centuries. Even Rome in the future is going to be trying to match Alexander's greatness in this. I forget who was playing Alexander.
Greatest make way for us and make way or pain in the name 6 sentiment leaving no true rain that is safe for them. Made a layaways, take him and pay great benefit, brain and DA committed. I commit the campaigns, the naysayers cut the frame, share with the maze, blessing the clip in the quiver, the quiver of fates. And minutes, a cutting close, facing the low trigger fade difference. Pain driven made, hate to stay feeling, they get in my way, fatally slay my name. And it's in the KDA, changing the game and no games given. Your face with the greatest, the day I stay winning. Is that as a claim dependent on my survival? Conquest, baby, stand ready for my arrival. Concept and principle, I'm just invincible. You're gonna fit in my title.
Alright, so the flow's fine. I do feel like he could have really filled in a lot more historical references. I mean, Alexander is such a powerhouse. Victories all across the region, crushing the Persian Empire with a much smaller Greek force, literally bridging the sea to get to the city of Tyre in the creation of a causeway. There's a lot to play with Alexander. He creates one of the most powerful empires ever seen, and I feel like he didn't really play on that at all in what he did, which really disappointing for Alexander the Great. That I think is my least favorite verse so far.
Make way for the wise and generous.
Alright, so this is one that I do not know at all. I do not recognize his name. Wait, what was it again?
Invincible, you're gonna fit in my title.
Seondeok. Watch me about to make a fool of myself. I'm trying to remember. I feel like I've seen the name, and I'm struggling to remember who it is. My guess would be that this is the unifier of Korea. Yeah. I don't think he's the engineer behind the dragon ships or the turtle ships. I could be wrong, though. I am curious to see who this is, though, and the role that they're playing.
Make way for the wise and generous. Switching minds at the stock on the pendulum. Hate a woman so much the planet set me up. Love a queen so much I make it like a bust. Like a chick queen, I'm the to the young, the woman to the dark. They don't know that they need me now. Tokugawa Ieyasu 벌써 위계 정상돼 내가 만들었지 나. 칼을 거치지가 않은 테마. Let the foundation complete a back comeback. 신라유지 17대 Seondeok. 여주부는 설리가 헛소리. Focus on my people and all their stories. 진의 향기가 없는 것이. I'm in a man taking all my glory. Prepare for my downfall, gonna start searching. Building up the tower that they use it for observing. Cause I'm buried in the country that I helped to make it flourish. See that my name at the time of big worship.
Alright, we're going to Hala in a second. That's exciting because I do love Hala. We are actually going to step away for a second. Who is Seondeok? Because I did not pick that up. So it is Korean, which I was correct on there. Alright, this is one that I'm going to have to read up on more. Because I was not positive who that was. That's very cool. I did not know who that was. And I kind of feel bad. But who was Hala playing again?
Only empress, ruthless, and I had to be. You think men are impressive, have them try it as ladies. When I took over the court, then I took over the country. Tryna grow, egon boom, but they judge me as cruel. I'm ready for the fist I rule with prejudice, get of this new movement. Watch out, crown myself now. So bow down on your knees, I've seized my dynasty.
So there's some really cool female rulers throughout East Asian history. She's one of the big ones throughout Chinese history, stepping away to the southeast a little bit more. One of the most prominent pirates of all time was a woman who ended up taking control of an entire fleet that just ravaged the southeast seas around Southeast Asia. But let's see. Oh, I'm kind of sad. I'm both really excited because I've heard Topham Hatt do his thing in Japanese. He's got a very, very fun verse on Rustage's Alucard rap, but I also don't know Japanese. So I'm going to know nothing of what he's saying, but Tokugawa Ieyasu is the unifier of Japan. He's the one who kind of brings Japan out of that warring states period, the Sengoku Jidai that just ravaged the country for decades, and reunifies the country and kind of creates the Edo period, the period in which the Tokugawas ruled the country up into the late 1800s, where they get opened up to the West. I am kind of curious if he's going to do like half of it in Japanese, half of it in English. I might be able to pick up some more bars if we do that. Alright, well, no, he spit the whole thing in Japanese, which is so cool. It is so good. I also don't know Japanese. I did hear them bring up Edo, which would be the capital that they move away from Kyoto into Edo, which would later become Tokyo. Now we get to, earlier on, we discussed Alexander the Great. Now we're getting into Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan has the single largest continuous land empire in history. He starts it. Technically, it doesn't actually reach its peak until his... Was it under Kublai? I believe that it's under Kublai. But it will eventually reach from the eastern shores of Asia to Poland and Hungary, and down into the Middle East, it is just an immensely large, globe-shatteringly powerful empire at its height.
Carving pots and cartilage, carnage, wrapped in carnage. Trying to pull the rug left wrapped in carpet. Baits in the jar, me out to ride it. Leave a battlefield covered in crimson. Break necks while I build my kingdom. You claim that you wouldn't do the same, but everybody's got a little bit of me in the go.
That's a very fun piece. It's estimated, and I don't remember the exact percentage, but a decent percentage of the global population today is directly descended from Genghis Khan. Either him or his sons or his grandsons during their conquest sired hundreds of children, thousands of children. And that has led to a fairly large percentage of the world's population to be descended from one person, which is crazy. He also starts off life kind of as a nobody, and he gains most of his notoriety, most of his strength from his conquest, from his expansions.
Kingdom, you claim that you wouldn't do the same, but everybody's got a little bit of me in the go. Gung ho, cutthroat, blood, so when you guys go, did you guys go jump out? Front row to your home, becoming a dust bowl, and it only gets worse if you run slow. Big strides, Mongolian steps, bareheaded and rain, and there's a whole.
The Mongolian steppes are the large grasslands that they originate from, but much of the territory heading west from them until you hit like the Urals and southern Siberia are these large open grasslands. Much of Central Asia is either grassland or desert, and that's why he's able to kind of gain this massive amount of experience expanding his territory with a largely cavalry-based military. They are horsemen, they're pastoral in society to begin with, and they expand to have this absolutely mind-bogglingly large power base through largely conflict, and it's through a lot of very brutal action in what they do.
Hole in your chest, I'm posing a threat to the whole of the West, and the rest of the world don't know me in death. Alfred.
So he does actually die fairly early into the Mongolian conquest during a hunt, but the empire that he creates will eventually threaten Poland, Hungary, Germany, a lot of Eastern Europe. They're the ones that are going to shatter the rising stars of the period, like the Georgians and the Armenians, and just prevent them from getting off the ground. We don't have modern Russia without, or Ukraine, without the intervention of the Mongols. A lot of the empires that happen throughout the region that end up coming up, a lot of the caliphates end up kind of having to rebuild. This was the end of the Islamic Golden Age with the destruction of Baghdad and all these different pieces. It's such a monumental impact. Now we're getting to England.
The grass, son of the wolf, wields power and grass. Show you I learned it, and merciful men make a kingdom from ashes and scour the dance. I was the fifth in line and the last one left, still poker face, and though they stack my deck, cut down.
So he was very much so, almost not ever king of England. He was the fifth in line at the time, but everybody else died. They were dealing with the outside threat of the Danes from the east coast. The Danelaw had expanded quite a bit. The Scots were very much so distinguishing themselves as an independent force in the north. Alfred is the one who's going to really kind of push to create that initial English identity and push out the other groups.
And life was a trial by death, but by God's good light, man, I passed that test. Only English monarch to have earned the grit, made the pagans vacate and learn their place. Showed a monster mercy and I turned the faith. Might have won the battle, but I burned the kids. Met the Pope in Rome and God spoke, said my man Alfie's a top bloke. When it comes to the art of war, I'm ahead of my time like crossbows. See, I'm...
He's also very pious. He's very focused on bringing Catholicism and Christianity into the English Isles and focused on expanding that influence throughout the region, which is a big deal. England will eventually be one of the first big ones to separate from the Catholic Church, but he's kind of the originator of Christianity in England on a broad spectrum. Especially with the Danelaw coming in, we'd seen a lot of pagan influence, a lot of traditional Norse mythology come in and settle itself. And he's kind of breaking that mold.
Moving body, so damn charming, loyal man, I got those. King of the Anglo-Saxons, might of those fights where you'll never hear me
So we're going from a unifier in England to Harald Bluetooth, who is one of the big Viking rulers of the period. And he's done by Dan Bull. You'll notice a lot of these are English rappers. Schwabity's from England, Rustage is from England, Connor Quest. But it's very fun. I'm excited to see what Dan Bull does here, because Dan Bull's another one of those ones that has just such a deep reverence for history. If you go back and listen to his Civilization rap, you can really see that in what he does.
King of the Anglo-Saxons, might of those fights where you'll never hear me Harold Gormson, the Irish vagina's where I was born from. I'm well respected in the runic who's who. If you're connected, you can call me Bluetooth. I made it insane and invaded and raided. Rearranging the brains of the pagan and raining. The whole he's a man for all seasons, whether you're Norwegian or even more Old Zealand. A cold heathens in cold Zealand, your boy.
So Zealand, by the way, he did a massive series of raids along the coasts of Northern Europe. Zealand is in what is today the Netherlands, I believe. And you can tell that one of the first major individuals to sail the world and start mapping the southern oceans of the Pacific and the territory east of Australia, New Zealand is named after Zealand of the period, which is why he called it Old Zealand. I know that's like an overcomplication of the line, but still.
Harold, he done brought peace to the whole region. Oh Jesus, you reckon you're bringing the heavy bars on hard lines? You want yours? I took a stone and carved mine. Inscribe it in wound, lass. Your life is in wound. Julius Magnus, Charlemagne, taking over.
All right, so we're gonna get into Charlemagne. Harald Bluetooth is also a unifying force as well, conquering parts of Norway or working through treaties to unify Norway, parts of Sweden, Denmark, and expand his influence west into the Danelaw in England. But that's beside the point. We're coming up on Charlemagne, the first Holy Roman Emperor. This is going to be the kind of father of France. He's going to be the founder of the Carolingian dynasties that dominate France for several hundred years.
Your life is in wound. Julius Magnus, Charlemagne, taking over your home now, Charlemagne. He's got Bavaria, Saxony, part of Spain, and nobody's ever walked that path again. And you can hardly name a place, a nation state, ungraced by the great that Charles became. Left the path that claims to kickstart the art on the heart of Arc like a on the rain.
Yeah, that's also a very good point. Like, this was a massive region that he controlled, that he was the emperor of, and he had kind of tried to expand throughout this period, but he needed validity. He needed people to agree that he should be in charge, so he goes to the Pope, and they create this kind of mutually beneficial deal where the Pope would crown him Holy Roman Emperor, or the Emperor, and he would have legitimacy over all these claims from the middle of Germany, where he had power out in Aachen, all the way down into Spain. It is a massive territory and is going to be the birthplace of a lot of the shifts of the period. This is also the start of the kind of infighting that's eventually going to ruin the broader control that the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire had, and ruin the influence of the Church in a lot of Europe, which is going to eventually lead to the Reformation. But
systems into existence. Mrs. Dominici, for instance, schmoozed the Pope and picked up the Christians. There ain't no resisting my Edmund. Pilgrims flock when I bid them go. Plus I got that holy Roman diplomacy. God knows when I grip that rose. Or if Mr. Worldwide cuts in globally.
Yeah. We're just gonna move on because I've already hit on a number of those pieces, but. So I'm assuming that he is also, I believe this is Hindi. I could be completely wrong on the language. But Chandragupta is going to be one of the first major empire builders in India. There's been a lot of empires throughout Indian history. India as a unified state doesn't really exist until the mid-1800s. And it really comes to become a unified state in opposition to the British and under British colonial bureaucracy. But Chandragupta is going to be one of the first really major expanders of this. He's going to build a massive empire across northern India.
शासक खुद क्या है इज्जत खुद क्या है ताकत होता क्या है सुनने से शुरू का वो बात होता क्या है चक्रवर्ती सम्राट मैंने यहाँ नया साम्राज्य बनाया धननन का पूरा कहर मिटाया मैंने रखी नींव उस साम्राज्य की जिसने अखंड भारत को पाया शीश झुका बस गुरु के ही आगे मानी मैंने सदा यहाँ गुरु की बातें युद्ध कला से राजनीति तक ज्ञान ग्रहण किया गुरु के ही द्वारे जानू पूरा शाम दाम दंड भेद पाओ पूरी भूमि रख तू जहाँ पैर बचेगा ना जोर रखेगा मुझसे बैर बना नहीं चंद्रगुप्त जैसे शेर.
Man was flowing on the beat, though. That was sick. The whole way through. I've never heard somebody... Again, I think that's Hindi. But I've never heard somebody rap in Hindi, and that was awesome. And now we're going to Mansa Musa, arguably the richest man to ever live, having been the head of Mali during the height of its gold extraction and salt business era, where it's kind of the crossroads of North Africa into West Africa, where most of the Sahara's highways, the pathways through the Sahara from Europe and North Africa into the main continent of Africa, all flow into Mali and just make it such a major piece. Timbuktu is such a major cultural center during this era, and his Hajj, his journey to Mecca, is one of the most immaculate pilgrimages, I guess you would put it, ever. He destabilizes the economy of Egypt. I feel like I'm just guessing as to what the bars are going to be at this point, but there's so much to play with Mansa Musa.
They come to pesos, don't ever mention me with Musk or Bezos. Some black as they sold, paid in straight gold and coverage trade goals we used today, so disrespect, I'm only king, a check is not a thing. I boom me kind of means like boom, I bada bing. Or cause inflation by giving to the poor too many donations. Man to move to the mass producer.
That's what I mean, though, that donations. He wanted so many people to go on the Hajj because he was a devout Muslim that he just started kind of handing out gold when he got to Egypt. People were like, I want to go on the Hajj. So he'd give them a certain amount of gold, and it pretty quickly spread that he was just handing these out. And it created such a massive hyperinflation issue in Egypt that Egypt's entire economy was destabilized for years. I believe decades after his arrival. It was already not in a good spot, but Mansa Musa's arrival did not help.
Cash influence, if a path to do stuff big in architecture. Who need to protect us? Just check the neck for necklace collector. Assalamu alaikum, rock from my location, 60,000 deep, and nobody can take us. Mecca, what I pray to Muslim too. Without me, there would be no Timbuktu. It's crazy if you ain't heard of me. I'm responsible for many universities. So say what you want, ain't no burning me when I provided too many people's first degree. I love to see that.
Ooh, that's such a fun play on his founding of universities and his support for education. That's what happens when you see individuals who have a lot of money and also want to directly help people come in. He starts, as we mentioned before, he just gives out money to people that want to go on the Hajj. And he also dramatically expands the access to education throughout Mali as an empire, centered all kind of in Timbuktu.
Universities, so say what you want, ain't no burning me when I provided too many people's first degree.
I love to see that RB scatter. Shaka, toe tagger, the best village ransacker. Zulu banner, short spit stabber, coming like Caesar but blacker.
All right. So Shadow is a very good rapper that I've seen before. He tends to do some in Japanese, some in English, but I'm assuming that he's going to go all English this time since he is not speaking as a Japanese character. But Shaka Zulu is a very impressive unifier in South Africa. His territory grew very quickly. He took advantage of the internal conflicts and neighboring wars that had been occurring throughout that period, and ended up building a kingdom powerful enough to go toe-to-toe with the British in the early colonial period. Now, they eventually end up being beaten out by modern weaponry, but Shaka's legacy really creates this powerful aspect throughout this period. I'm going to see what else he throws in, but this is very
Tiger,
good.
the best village ransacker, Zulu banner, short spit stabber, coming like Caesar but blacker. Who's gonna make a Zulu nation? Make a try.
I actually really like that comparison too. The skin shields, the cowhide shields that they use along with the shorter spear is very reminiscent of the legionaries under Caesar, who had the broader shield and the short swords that they used at the time. So I like that comparison. I also like that comparison as a unifier of the region, because Caesar, before he ever took power in Rome itself, had unified what today is effectively modern France, which had been under the Gauls, into Roman rulers, Roman leadership, eventually getting all the way up into England. He had a massively powerful piece, but I like that comparison that Shadow's doing there.
I train like a choo-choo station. In a war, recognize who you facing. Pin your crew down like a voodoo patient. Beetle with no sweat. Turning people to peaceful, then you're dead. Your beat call me lethal when you're set to be regal and lethal when I step. I'm an African warrior. Hit your rank with a flank with the loins stay taut. Grab the bull by the horns and you'll still get.
Okay, I was expecting that he'd eventually bring up the bull by the horns. But he's one of the more recognizable formations that they would use was, I'm trying to remember, there's a specific term that they used, but we'll go directly by bull formation, where they'd have extended groups in front of the main formation, and the idea was that if they could wrap those horns around a smaller force or another force, they could then effectively create an envelopment. And an envelopment is where you surround your opponent, and it makes it easier to bring them down or stop them. And Shaka and the Zulus that followed him was incredibly powerful in what they did in this period.
Paying dividends. Now you listening.
So Suleiman the Magnificent of the Ottomans, the individual who, he came so close to conquering Vienna, but this is kind of the height of the Ottoman Empire. It had been building up for hundreds of years up to his point. Or am I misremembering which Suleiman? There's a lot of big ones. But he's one of the big powerhouses in Ottoman history, and making the Ottomans what they are, that would eventually lead to them being one of the longest lasting empires of the age, making it all the way up till the end of World War I.
They say it's a small world, but not to me, bitch. My kingdom just blossom. So fuck your feelings, I'm reaching out. Crushing on me, they'll pay my tax. I'll drape it on me, I made my stack. I'm saying sorry, they take that back. You standing in the presence of a God. I can see the crack in your facade. Stare down at the world, I'm at the top. Add another milli to the car. My world's magnificent.
Now, I've heard some people in the past get upset about the fact that there's so much singing in a lot of the nerdcore scene ciphers, but I do dig it, because when you're in a 10-minute cipher, I think it does a lot to break up the monotony of similar verses. Especially a lot of people keep similar styles and similar flows, and I like that breakup. But Maguire, very fun verse about Suleiman the Magnificent. a powerful expander and centralizer of Ottoman control. Now we're on to one of my favorite rulers ever, which would be Catherine the Great, the Tsarina of Russia, one of the major expanders, one of the major powerhouses. Expeditions from her, some of the first Europeans to settle in Alaska. She solidifies control over Siberia. She builds some of those beautiful palaces in Western Europe. And this is all built on the reality that she was not Russian. She was German. She married into the Russian royal family and eventually usurped her husband to become the ruling face of this. And through just a brilliant set of strategies, the YouTube series Extra History has some incredible pieces on her. Lex Bratcher's also just an incredible rapper. I've heard her on a lot of different things, from more mainstream items like, not mainstream, I guess, but more central rap stylings under Tech 9 to other very fun ciphers in the nerdcore scene.
How we defeat these infantile cowards, they bowed at my feet. Political power was out of my reach until this was shouted to prime and beneath. I'm the queen that we're blessed with the charge. I crown as my spouse until death did us part. I expanded the West and embarked, bringing culture and arts. New approaches to start. New roads to be paved, new expansions.
It is widely suspected that she had her husband killed. That is unconfirmed, and we don't know, is the reality. But yeah, his death made her the sole ruler. Because technically, prior to his death, they shared it, but she was in charge for most of it. She's a great expander, too, as I mentioned prior.
Tomorrow, new search to be free, new plans to be sparked. Promote education and open the hearts of the openly spoken church. Go for remarks, reform, avocation, our modern advancement, diplomacy, victory, enhancements, the legacy to be remembered for ages. Captain the Great, really Captain the Greatest.
Yeah, that's on else too. She was a huge reformer. She tried to really bring in the Russian Empire to the modern age, bring in a lot of Enlightenment ideas and concepts. She brought together a bunch of the nobles and was like, we're going to work out a centralized law system, which will be massively beneficial. And the bureaucrats and the nobles that she brought in were not great. They did not recognize the fact that she really wanted change. She really wanted reform. So so they were all too scared to really ask for or push for change, which was not great. Who was after Catherine? I don't remember. I completely whiffed on it. I did not see it.
Legacy to be remembered for ages. Captain the Great, really Captain the Greatest.
Could you shut up for a millisecond?
Oh, Philip. All right.
Second is Philip II. Let me set the record straight. King of Spain, England, Netherlands, and some other lands. I can.
Philip II is going to gain power after Charles V abdicates. Charles V is just... his empire is too large. He can't actually handle it. But Philip is going to come in and really be one of the first major powerhouses in Europe. At this point, Spain is a superpower that was really unrivaled by pretty much anybody else, and that's because of the wealth and the silver being brought in from South America.
Remember that many names, I changed the game, they never forget. My reign so great, no one's ever met a single domain so lit. Cause here the sun never sets, okay? Siempre que me siento en mi trono me centro, por eso volví capital a Madrid. Felipe don't need, goes right in his sheet. I sign every chance that I send to the streets. Girl, are you feeling filled? You could be my queen, raise my Philippines. See la gota, me agota, and I'm really ill. Bury me wearing this secret.
He's also going to be the individual who sends out the expedition by Magellan that's going to circumnavigate the world. His expeditions are going to be what names the Philippines after him. And why the Philippines are going to be a Spanish colony from the 1500s up to around 1900 when the United States takes over until 1946 when they gain their independence. But also why the Philippines is today the only Catholic majority East Asian nation the only Spanish-speaking majority nation in East Asia. It really set the Philippines away from its neighbors culturally and structurally. And that can still be seen. There's still a lot of internal fighting over that idea of, are we more Spanish? Are we more East Asian? Are we something different? And then we get into Moctezuma. Alright, so we're getting into more Spanish, so I don't know how much I'm going to pick up, although I'm already digging the flow that he's got. But Montezuma II is going to be an Aztec ruler, the one that actually... Wait, was it Montezuma II? It is Montezuma II that he's doing. He ends up taking over the Aztec Empire at a really bad time. The Spanish are arriving. There's numerous groups that are trying to take control, trying to break away from the Aztecs throughout this period. But yeah, Montezuma II is a major player in early settlement, in early colonial politics, dealing with Cortez, and wins several battles. Well, he doesn't. He ends up being killed. But his forces end up winning several battles against the Spanish. It's really smallpox that does in the Aztec Empire at the time. He loses his life alongside Cortez, actually, because he'd been taken captive. Alright. Ooh, I've heard Louverture before. He's from Haiti, and he's got a really fun mix of English and French lyrics when he does this. Or he's got that Haitian Creole that he throws in that's very fun. But he's doing Napoleon Bonaparte, which is a very fun fact because Haiti is one of the few places where Napoleon objectively failed in his control throughout this period, which is a very fun kind of flip. But Napoleon, of course, being one of the more potent emperors, he unifies the revolutionary France. He wins battle after battle after battle that he just really shouldn't have. He was a brilliant tactician, a brilliant mind. There's a lot to be said about Napoleon's impacts and effects throughout his life.
The heavenly gifts is well known with a piece my prince. I got a born and appears to the mid and have any clips. I deep in Egyptians, my wives like a Zeta stone, hard to read but thick as a beam.
Alright, so we're already hitting on some of the bigger facts there. He fights in Egypt. He does fairly well in Egypt, however, the destruction of the French fleet off the coast by the British Navy pretty much doomed that expedition. And he got up and he left. He knew when to call it quits for the most part. But he does, in his adventures in Egypt, his forces, along with native Egyptians, find the Rosetta Stone, to which he does the classic Western European thing of going, that's cool, I'm taking it with me, and ships it back to France. And that Rosetta Stone, which had 3 different languages on it, hieroglyphics, ancient Greek, and Demotic. Demotic, I think, is the third one. But we were able to then, specifically a group of linguists, were able to then take the most recent language, which was ancient Greek, and translate that, and for the first time ever unlock Demotic, which we knew a little bit about, but not a ton. And then using Demotic and that Greek, we were then able to decipher the hieroglyphics. And that's why we know how to do or understand hieroglyphics. Alright, so that's another big thing. Up to this point, emperors had always been named by the Pope. Napoleon when he was crowned emperor, he took the crown from the Pope and crowned himself, which was a big kind of statement of, hey, I'm mending fences with the church, because the revolutionaries, they tried to get rid of the Catholic Church. I'm mending fences, but do know I am still above you in France. And it pretty much immediately cut out this idea that the papacy and Napoleon were on the same level, and kept Napoleon from actually having to rely on or listen to the Pope to any greater degree.
I'm a psychopath. Fuck's by my side. Mark. For my next natural pride. George.
As you would appear, check out GS beyond my peers and another tear. Punri, I'm willing to lose a tear. Just to come and deal if you'd be sleeping off my career. To keep it short, I'm a historical giant.
Under my bogus.
What is the son to a founding father?
I don't think I have to really break down George Washington. George Washington is a mainstay. He's the father of the United States. I'm sure I'll mention a few things, but this is going so long.
What is the son to a founding father? Lead teams would be and I couldn't sleep. And who am I tried to me so I wouldn't speak? And when I knew I true beast was some more than teeth. Okay, toast boy, they didn't give me a place. I surveyed land and now I'm off of the map. Delegation, how I'm rocking the stage. With nasty rants like intolerable acts. Grow up in the Tokugawa since past time. I'm a raw while on the field here at shot spot. Delaware River, the flow, you couldn't cross her.
Okay, this is... There's so much.
And when I knew I true beast was some more than teeth. Okay, toast boy, they didn't give me a place.
So, after the French and Indian War, which that is a whole different discussion. Washington does not do well in the French and Indian War. Does not get a placement in the British Army afterward. And then goes back to being a land surveyor. That's actually what he'd done before the French and Indian War. That's actually one of the reasons why he had been sent out to deal with the French in western Pennsylvania. Is because of the fact that he could survey and understand where would be a good spot for a fort and how to deal with that.
Survey land and now I'm off of the map. Delegation, how I'm rocking the stage. With nasty rants like intolerable acts.
Intolerable acts, one of the main reasons why we end up declaring our independence, separating from the British Empire.
Grow up in the Tokugawa since past time. I'm a raw while on the field here at shot spot.
Washington's brother dies fairly young. Was it Lawrence? I don't remember his brother's name all of a sudden. I believe that it was Lawrence, but I might be wrong. But Washington's brother dies relatively young of disease. And as a result, Washington, who had really not been prepared to run the plantation, run his family's fortune, ends up in charge instead. And that's kind of the thing that Washington always excelled at, was finding himself in positions that he realistically shouldn't have been, and then excelling, except for the French and Indian War. He does very poorly at the start of that. But the Delaware River, him crossing over to get at Trenton and Princeton and just creating this huge morale victory for the Americans kind of saves the Revolution in 1776. And we'll move on. We'll get through a little bit more.
Delaware River, the flow, you couldn't cross her. And even as a little child, I cannot lie. Christmas package for the enemy, no gift to rapping. Just leave them in the cold, give them frostbite. Cherry tree swing, hot drop ride.
So prior, all those bits about being cold, the frostbite, those are all references to the just absolutely brutal winter, that he endured alongside the American revolutionaries at Valley Forge, and kind of goes to show that he was willing to go through similar pain to his men. He also, there was another bar. Where was it? His bar about being unable to tell a lie. That cherry tree story, probably apocryphal. That probably never happened. But he was seen as very honest and very respectable, even by a lot of his opponents throughout the Revolution.
Horse being horsepower like a mock five. Shots ringing if you trying to bust. Got cannons punching with the damage and blow. Real precedent for all the future presidents. Knockout win, unanimous votes. Like Mel Rushmore, they froze in the
the face, rolling stone, and you standing there cold. Immortalized, I am the man in the mold. Even when I die, I can't abandon my home. Yeah.
Alright, that was awesome, though. That was a really good cipher. This is so long already. I'm going to go ahead and call it. But, man, that was so fun. Let me know if you want to see more, hear more of these reactions, discussions. I'm thinking about doing, like, a lecture series based on the material that I put together for my classes. But, either way, have a great day. Bye.